This is a game I don't have an official name for yet. But in development, I've been calling it Project Supertanks. Creative, I know. Project Supertanks is a third-person vehicle shooter, taking inspiration from the roguelike elements of Risk of Rain 2, vehicle control mechanics from Rocket League, with bits and pieces from a host of other vehicle shooters throughout the ages. Oh yeah, and it's the first game I've ever made. Today, I want to take you on the journey of how I got this game to the point it's at now, and where I'm taking it moving forward. So, how do you make a game when you've never made a game? I started with taking this Udemy class. Learning Unreal Engine by yourself is no easy task, so I wanted something to help me get started. At the time, I didn't really know what kind of game I wanted to make yet, but when I got to the part of the class labeled Toon Tanks, I started having ideas. I wanted to make a third-person vehicle shooter, a roguelike. To make this game, I'd need a few big things. Playable vehicle characters with different weapons and abilities, enemies, levels, and power-ups. I started off with making a vehicle character first, so it was time to go learn Blender. And after working on it for a bit, I had this. But without a movement system, it's just gonna sit there. So I started making my first movement system. And it turned out, well, not great. I needed it to move around much better than that. And luckily there was a simple solution. Chaos Vehicles. Chaos Vehicles is a vehicle physics simulation system built right into Unreal Engine 5. And after learning how it works, I had my first tank character moving around great. Now it's time for combat abilities. I want each player tank character to feel unique and different from each other. So each one will have a few different combat abilities. I've also added a booster and the ability to jump to add some extra mobility in there. Next up was getting some simple enemies in the game. So back into Blender we go, and after a little bit of time I had these. But those models didn't last long, and soon I replaced them with these. With my first character and some enemies out of the way, I started getting familiar with the landscape brushes, practicing on the default open world, and after a while, I had my own little test level that I was having fun playing around in. This was just the start of things, but the game was starting to take shape, and I was already having fun playing with it. Next, it was time to start making my first real level. I had this vision in my head of a Pacific Northwest-themed island chain, connected by bridges. So I looked through some YouTube tutorials to figure out how to make an island level. I found one, and after some playing around with it, I had something to work with, and it was pretty cool looking. That look wouldn't last long, though. The assets I made the island with looked great, but they were a certain kind of art style, a little too stylized for what I was going for. So I had to replace them with some different assets. And luckily there was an easy way to do it in a program called Quixel Bridge. Quixel Bridge is a massive library of free-to-use materials and 3D assets I could use to decorate my levels with. Meaning most of the assets I would use for all future levels were taken care of right here. And so, with a redesign of the level coming, and my Blender skills improving, I wanted to remodel the player tank character to a higher level of detail than the one that I had here, and to better fit with the new level art that was coming in. I'm much happier with the way this one turned out, and I feel like this is a better representative of all future player vehicles moving forward. Also around this time, I started getting some outside help. My best friend started learning Blender to help me make models for the game too. Models like these. With lots of new 3D models ready to go, a new player character, and a huge library of high-quality materials at my disposal, it was time to polish the first level and get it looking better. am really pleased with the way this level turned out so far. And it's not done yet. There will be more detailing done as we go on. But this is a solid concept at this stage, and this will be the standard going forward. After finishing up my level, I started work on a lock-on system for the player vehicles. This will let the player focus more on maneuvering the tank and avoiding obstacles, rather than trying to accurately hit targets at speed. Then, I built an air control mode, so during jumps and hang time, the player can still accurately engage targets and precisely control character movement. These two mechanics together really helped to get combat and vehicle maneuvering feeling a lot more fun and engaging than it was before. With a decent chunk of the core gameplay in, there were just a few more things to add. An enemy spawn system, power-ups and power-up crates, and an end-of-the-level boss. Enemy spawns were pretty easy. I just built a spawner, copy-pasted a bunch of them throughout the level, with some blueprint code to spawn enemies at the nearest ones to the player every so often. This will be refined as time goes on. Power-ups will spawn in crates randomly throughout each level, and cost points to open, which you'll get from destroying enemies. I made a few simple power-ups so far, just things like double damage chance, increasing base health regen, and increasing fire rate. But there will be many more cool and unique ones in the future. This is my first boss enemy. I've been calling it Big Blimp for now, but that's not its official in-game name. Every level will have a boss you'll have to defeat before you can move on to the next level. This one was a ton of fun to make, and I plan on making a whole lot more going forward. So what's next for Project Supertanks? Where are we going moving forward? Well, for starters, I'm working on the next level. Here's a little sneak peek of what that looks like right now. I'm also working on some new enemy types. In addition to that, I'll be working on some new power-ups, a new boss enemy, and a new player tank character. Well, that about brings me to the end of the video. I'm thinking about trying to get one of these out semi-regularly, giving updates on the latest developments. So if you enjoyed this, stay tuned for the next one. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for watching. And if this game looks interesting to you, like something you'd like to play in the future, please hit that like button. That's going to help me boost this video out to more people who might also like to play this game when it comes out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.